All right, the first one. What's happening here? I hope you're seeing, right? You can't go this way, but there's a straight line here. And if this is 120, I know that the remainder has to be a supplement, has to add up to 180. So that's 60. There's another one here. Straight line there. If this is 120, then this is 60. Yeah, you got it. Now you have two angles inside that triangle. There's no other option but for this to be 60, right? So this is an equilateral triangle. That's it. That's all you need to write there, and a little bit of work there. Okay. Next, worth 3 marks. Okay. You can for sure, like usually we have two names, right? So based on the numbers, you can say this is going to be scalene. Mr. Dirksen, can I put scalene first? Sure, go for it. It doesn't matter to me, but scalene is one of the categories, and the other one is, what's the option there? Right, acute, or obtuse. We have to narrow it down. We have no angles here, so we have to do some math here. Which one am I going to focus on? I'm going to focus on the angle that's across the longest side. That's the one I'm particularly interested in. Why so, Mr. Dirksen? Well, if this is an obtuse, then I'm done. If this is an acute, then I know for sure this triangle is an acute triangle because it can't, since this is the largest angle and it's less than 90, the other ones will be smaller, right? And if this happens to be exactly 90, which will be the case sometimes, you use cosine law and all of a sudden you're like, what? Cosine inverse of 0 is 90, right? So sometimes that will happen as well. Anyways, I'm focusing on this. I'm going to call that A. Cosine of angle A is, you add and subtract, right? This is the one you subtract. The other two are being added. You feel free to add this using a pen, right? And then the two sides here that are added, they also multiply down here. And you get, where's my answer key? You get negative 11 over 24. You know already this is obtuse, right? Because of that you can conclude, hey, this is going to be obtuse. I would say you only get 2 out of 3 if there's no work. Yeah, because that's guessing, right? You probably are. It was probably an educated guess. I want you to do work. I'm going to say this, if you stop there, because I'm not actually asking you to solve for that side, if you stop there, I would still give you the 3 out of 3. Stop there. Okay, so it's obtuse scalene. So you get 1 mark for the obtuse part, 1 mark for the scalene, and 1 mark for showing me some sort of work there that goes with it. Next. You have only one angle and 2 sides. Oh, what can I use here? I can use sine law. Yeah, I can. Too much work. I can use Pythagorean theorem. Yes. Use Pythagorean. So this is a leg. Across from the 90, you have the hypotenuse. This is another leg, right? So let's go find that one. Leg is square root of 12.73 squared minus 9 squared. In this case, it's minus, right? You get 81.052. It keeps going. And that gives you, hey, look at that. 9 inches. Isn't that cool? Because if this is 9 inches, it's an isosceles, yes. So this would be a right, because of the 90, isosceles. For Mr. Reason, you didn't find more angles. No need. I know they're going to be the same, because these two sides are the same. Okay. So you can kind of, often you can just draw conclusions based on, as long as it's sound, right? So I would give you This should be a 3 marker, to be honest. So let's get rid of the 2 and make this 3. I would say 1 mark for the work, 1 mark for right, and 1 mark for isosceles. So this page turns out to be out of 8 because it's 2, 3, and 3. If you use sine law, it would have been a little bit more work. You still would arrive to the same conclusion if you did use sine law. How would you have gone about it? Sine of 90 over this, sine of 9 over that angle. And when you did the work, you would have probably come up with 45. Are you with me? You would have probably come up with 45. And so 90 and 45, that means that this has to be 45 as well, right? And then it's like, oh, it's isosceles as well. So it has to jive, right? Or else geometry is down the drain, goes down the drain. Let's go to the next page here. Oh boy, 4 marks. Let that give it away, right? Let that tell you more work required. So I have a pair, right? Since the beginning of trig, I told you if I have a pair, you can use sine law for sure. So pair. Sine of 55 over 200, and then I'm going to find, what can I find? The only thing left to find, or that I can, is finding that angle. So I'm going to go sine of angle A, 229.43. Remember, angles always have a sign in front of it or cosine, right? You can't just make them appear when you're trying to solve. Sine of A is 229.43 times sine of 55 divided by 200. Let me just get my key here because otherwise it's going to take too long. I get 0.9396 and continued. And so angle A can be found by going sine inverse of that. And I get 70, right? It's 69.9996 and so forth. So it's 70 degrees. That's important. So if this is 70, then I can easily find C now. Easy. I would say you should get 2 marks for finding the 70 for sure. Like that's quite a bit of work in my books here. So C is 180 minus 70 minus 55. Angle C is what? What? It's 55. You can stop here. You can stop. You do not have to continue anymore because you have sufficient evidence to make a conclusion. Given that 2 angles are the same, you know it's isosceles. Now by angles, all of them are less than 90, so this is an acute isosceles triangle. So you get 1 mark for that, 1 mark for that. You get, I didn't account for this here. That's okay, here you go. You get 1 mark for the 55, so that would turn this whole thing into 5. No big deal. This question is worth 5. So yeah, it was a lot of work, but it's doable. You should be able to do it. This is a review of trig, right? Trigonometry, which is kind of nice, reviewing it before the exam. Okay, let me just go here. Sketch the following, be very specific. Acute scalene. My classic acute scalene is an offset roof, to be honest. And acute meaning they all have different measurements. So the biggest angle is going to be, I don't know, 70. And then I'll make this, if this is 60, that's 130. So if that's 50, then we're good. And just to be clear, I'm going to do this. Even though you would be okay with just having 3 different angles, I would be okay with that. But here you're telling me they're all less than 90 and all sides are different. Obtuse isosceles. I'll just make it a really wide roof like this. Oops. I really don't care if it looks pretty, right? So those are the same, and I'm going to make this, I don't know, 130. That's technically good enough because you need one bigger than 90 and two sides that are the same, you're done. Okay. 130, right? What are you left with? 50? So if you put 25, 25, that's fine as well. You're technically okay there. Obtuse scalene. So I'm going to take this one and I'm going to make it a little bit longer this way maybe. But in this case, I'm going to make this, let's try this, 91. How's that? It's now officially obtuse. And now I need to do a little bit of thinking. So I'll go 9 gets me to 100. So how about I make this 59? Right? So that takes that to 100, 150. So this is 30. So 1, 2. I'll just make these markings just for kicks. Right? You could have put numbers down here. Right? This should be 10. Let's say 10 inches. This would be 8, and that's 7 if you want, but not necessary. Right scalene, that's just your regular right triangle. Right scalene, so you technically could just do this and be okay. So every single one of them is worth 2 marks. Why? Because you have to show me that it meets both criteria, right? You have to show me that it meets the first part and the second part. Like no labels at all, like no numbers. In that case, I cannot give you any marks. Yeah, sorry. It has to have something in there. Yeah. Like for example, if this last one, if you put a box there, the one corner, then you get 1 mark for sure. Yeah, yeah. So what are we at? This is 8 and 5. That's 13. For this back side is 13. It doesn't matter what you got today, as long as you learned something, to be honest. 13. And then the front, we're at 8. 13 and 8. We got 21, right? So let's go to the very, very top here at the beginning and just make this out of 21. Make sure your name is on there, and I'll take them in. You get them back.